Hey folks, so I just completed the Camino Portugues from Porto to Santiago. I'm coming to you currently from the Camino Francés. I'm in Arca, which is the last day before Santiago on the Camino Francés, but more about that to come. I thought I would update you guys a little bit about how it went, kind of some observations that I have about the Portuguese, some maybe tips to keep in mind if you're thinking about going, and just overall how my experience was. So one thing overall that I noticed is that Portugal is cheaper than Spain, especially on the Camino. It is very typical on the Camino Portugues to spend about €5 a night or by donation for the municipal albergues, at least starting in Porto. A menu del dia on the Portuguese usually ranged about €6 or €7, so that's about half the price that you find on the Camino Francés, which is nice. Keep in mind this is only in Portugal on the Portuguese. A portion of it is in Spain, and it does get significantly more expensive at that point, but generally speaking, I did save quite a bit more money on the Portuguese than I was expecting to. The language is different, obviously. I know a bit of Spanish. I can get by in Spanish on the Camino totally fine, and I can understand basic things that are said to me. In Portuguese, like, knowing a little bit of Spanish doesn't help you at all in Portugal. It really doesn't, except to maybe read a menu or something like that. You can get an idea. Portuguese sounds super different, and this is probably sounding really naive and stupid for me to even be telling you that, but I thought my Spanish would help a little bit. In general, you're more likely to have luck speaking to them in English than trying to butcher some sort of Spanish-Portuguese hybrid, but at least learn how to say, like, hello and bom dia and obrigada, which is thank you, or obrigado if you're a man, just to be able to at least show your gratitude in the local language. I found the demographics of the Portuguese to be quite different. I found most people that I spoke to who knew some English, it was at least their second Camino and they'd done the Camino Francés before. I did meet some people who it was their first Camino, but I think typically most people start with the Francés and then come here. We found ourselves kind of comparing how it was with the Francés and talking about the different routes people had done, and so there is a little bit more of that extra experience on this Camino, I think, probably especially if you start before Porto. The main exception to this is Portuguese walkers. Often this will be the first one that they walk, which is for obvious reasons. The other thing I found, I only met a few native English speakers the whole time I was there, which is totally fine. I met a lot of people who could speak English, and I definitely wasn't without company to speak to. I did find definitely now coming to the Francés, I'm like, oh my god, there's so many people I can talk to, it's almost overwhelming. I was the Canadian in my group on the Portuguese, because there was no, I met one American the whole time. I met 2 English gentlemen and 2 Irish ladies, but that's out of the whole 12 days I was there, so not too many. But that's totally fine. So definitely knowing any other languages, even knowing a little bit, will probably help you meet more people, obviously, but you'll be fine if you just speak English. And I should say, just because most people have done the Camino before who are walking the Camino Portugues, doesn't by any means mean that you can't do it as a first one. It's totally fine. On this Camino, there's a lot more solitude. There were many days, especially in the beginning, where I would walk the whole day almost without seeing anybody, maybe like 1 or 2 pilgrims when I stopped. You can easily walk the whole thing by yourself and be alone and not contend with like seeing tons and tons of people in front of you and behind you. For some people that's a plus. For me that was a plus. I really liked having that alone time. For other people that might make them less comfortable. I really enjoyed being able to walk by myself, and then coming to the Camino Francés was definitely a little bit of a culture shock. There are still plenty of people doing it, and you'll be able to socialize with them at the albergues at night, but very rarely did I see albergues completely full, and this is in May. Near the end, the municipals were sometimes filling up at night, but there are privates as well, so I never felt like I had to worry about a bed race. Not very many people got up and started walking before about 6:30 in the morning, which was nice, so we all got nice nights of sleep on this Camino. I found the municipal albergues in Portugal to be very high quality. Quite a few where maybe you weren't in a room with like 40 other people. There were often completely fully functional kitchens. I found compared to the Camino Francés there was quite a bit more road walking and like walking on like small roads in between towns, and there was quite a bit less like walking in nature, I would say. But there were quite a few days where I didn't even necessarily reach for my camera because I didn't really see anything worth taking a picture of, which kind of says something, but I would still recommend it. I'm not saying it's like a terrible Camino or anything, but I found the Camino Francés to be, generally speaking, more picturesque and a little bit more scenic than the Portuguese. That I should note, I walked the central route. I didn't walk the coastal route, so I walked kind of the main one, the one that most people do in Portugal. Portugal is 1 hour time zone behind Spain, so it gets lighter earlier and gets darker earlier in Portugal in compared to Spain at the same time. So when you walk over the border into Spain, suddenly it's like, oh, it gets dark really late here. Like, you lose an hour of time. So that was just, I just found that interesting. Typically, I found the waymarking to be pretty good. I actually found it better in Portugal than once I crossed into Spain, which is weird. But I think the Portuguese Camino Society have been really on top of making sure that there's lots of arrows, they're really fresh, they're really obvious. And actually, the only times where I felt like I was maybe lost or I was confused about where to go was once I got into Spain. On that note, I don't think you need a guidebook. I obviously didn't have one and I did just fine. I just had a list of all the towns, like which ones had albergues, the distances between. But even that, which I got from the internet, there were quite a few albergues that weren't on that, and so to me it looked like I either had to walk 15 kilometers or 30, but there was actually a couple at 20 and 25 that I didn't know about. So that would have been nice to plan for, but I don't even know if the guidebooks had that up to date. I think the Portuguese is rapidly growing in traffic and in infrastructure, and probably the books can't quite keep up. I did find that typically, compared to the Camino Frances, there is some times where there just aren't as many options for distances to walk, that you either have to walk a bit of a short day or a bit of a long day, or have to be a little bit flexible in terms of what you want to walk. So that's kind of the experience that I had on the Portuguese route. Those are some of the observations that I had. I hope this was helpful for you. I'm still currently on the Camino. I have another 9 days in Spain at the time that I'm filming this, and I'm hoping to film more videos with my dad because he just walked the Norte. I'm going to walk to Finisterre and I'll talk about that. So I will keep you guys updated. Talk to you very soon. Bye.